video games, text messages, emails, social media. The landscape in terms of the media landscape has changed radically over the last few decades. So the concept behind media literacy is that young people, I would say people of all ages, but particularly young people as they're being educated, need to be educated how to become media literate, how to understand the very complex images and ideas that they're being presented with. So we introduced a bill last session. We're hopeful this year to see more progress. And basically the bill instructs DESE, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, to it gives guidelines to include media literacy as part of the curriculum. I'm very enthused to be sponsoring the bill. I'm also remarkably enthused that I have a great Senate sponsor, Dan Wolf. And you know, as I said, we made good progress last time. We got it out of the Education Committee. I think this year we're going to get it further, and I'd love to see it, of course, on the governor's desk.
The basis of a democracy, of a well-functioning democracy, is a well-informed and educated electorate. There's nothing more important. So when we look at how do we do that, it's not only about having good schools that teach people things when they're there, it's also about teaching critical thinking and also teaching kids now how to filter through all of that garbage that they are inundated with to find good sources. The good news in today's world is there's more information if you know how to mine it and harvest it and critically assimilate it in a form that then gives you a sense of reality so you can be a good civic engaged member of this society. But the potholes and dangers are much worse than they were when we were growing up. What this bill says is teaching the art of critical thinking and doing it in the context of the media or different sources of information is critical. So I'm really honored to be carrying this bill with you. And I think maybe we'll get it somewhere this session. Very excited.
Let me start with a short video illustrating that, and of course, constructing the sort of processes that happen in advertising and other places is essential. It's basically a human communication. How do you make a point, how to convince someone. You guys have to do this day in, day out. And this is what everyone has to do in their jobs, whether you're in high tech or low tech or whatever. I have to do this constantly, and hopefully I've done a reasonable job at that.
We tend to think of media as a source of information and entertainment, and yes, indeed it is. But when the developing brain of a child is assessing media 10 hours and 45 minutes a day, when they're engaging with that environment, it is having a profound impact not only on their brain development, but also how they understand who they are and what the world is about, and their relationship to the world. A child's brain is an interactive work in progress. As the child engages with the environment he is in, that environment is literally shaping his brain. That's a very important understanding to have. I mean, that literally we become what we do. We become the environment we're in. 10 hours and 45 minutes, that environment is on some kind of screen. As an educator, I see the impact of really not understanding reality in some very basic ways. Boys who are attempting the extreme behavior that they're watching on YouTube videos that have been totally edited and made to be somewhat different than they are. Girls who are comparing and assessing their bodies against Photoshop tweets of celebrities, not really understanding that that isn't how people wake up in the morning, and that people actually hire people to Photoshop these immediate tweets all the time. Each one of these things are small things, but they weigh in terms of the child's development, who they think they are, and how they fit into the world.
Unfortunately, too few people have the skills to navigate their way through the barrage of media messages we see every single day about policies, about our criminal justice system. So, well, perhaps one of the most effective activities we engage in is our regular news journals. Students have to pick a story and follow it from a variety of sources, and then they have to deconstruct those sources. The first step is what we call whaling it. They have to look at word choice. What are the powerful words in this news source that help shape the tone of the story? Of those words, which ones are adjectives and adverbs? That's the A in whale. And why do we look for those? Because those are the key words that will show you that someone is shaping the perspective of the story. We then list what information's been included, what facts can you list, and then we ask them to figure out what information has been left out. That's often a difficult one for them to bend their mind around in the beginning, but once they get that, they start to say, oh, wait a minute, this was a story about a scandal, but we don't know this, and this, so how can we draw the conclusion that this person just drew? We ask them to summarize the story and then do a comparison of the sources. Which was the most biased, which was the least biased? And finally, what are your thoughts about this particular issue? And they look for stories that have to do with our government in action. And it's been an amazing experience for them. They actually get very angry at me about halfway through the semester. I went to see a movie last night, Ms. Robb, and I totally did not get to actually enjoy the story because you were sitting right here, and that's where that was biased. It was biased over here. And then you should have seen the way they played men and women and the role of the older person. And we look through media sources, not just news, but advertising, entertainment, video games. We deconstruct all of them, so they are active recipients of media messages.
PressPass TV gave me the opportunity to learn how to network. They also gave me the opportunity to interview Mayor Marty Walsh and other political leaders. Remember the protests that was going on for Mike Brown in Ferguson and Boston? So I've heard about it like online, and PressPass didn't know about it, so I went to them and I told them that I want to make a video about it. So they really supported me on that video, and it's on our YouTube page also, so you can check that out. I also got the opportunity to work with artists and be on an actual film set with one of our boards at PressPass, and many more. PressPass didn't only teach me about media literacy, but also taught me a few things about myself and to keep a growth mindset.
Like you said, two quick things. Two reasons why I support the bill is it kind of legitimizes the different curriculums being used, that actually using media in classrooms is actually a good way to educate. And if there's great programs out there, whether you're using PBS or other programs that are being mentioned today about the curriculum around watching something. Also, I was a documentary film editor for 15 years before I started wearing a suit and playing politics. And so I understand the power of what documentaries can do, and teaching our young people the skills about editing and shooting and what it makes to make a video. Those are real jobs that people can really get after they graduate. And we're not teaching that kind of stuff in our schools, and I think that's really critical. And we all have a smartphone in our pocket. It's like, we all take pictures and look at how these things are made, how these apps are made. This is critical to teach our young people this today. So it's a good bill. And again, I think it's a first step. It's not a mandate on a particular curriculum. It's not a mandate on something to burden our public schools, but I think it's to give the teachers that are already using media literacy the legitimacy that's needed.
One of the things, we don't want to be too prescriptive for two reasons. One, because we're just now really starting to learn about some of the damage or some of the effects, not all of it negative, but I think a good part of it, about what this has brought us. A lot of studies were done early on in television, for example, about the impacts of that media, not only on how people saw the world, but again, I think the whole, having raised three women now, the whole image of ourselves as a commodity and that whole issue. But we're still learning that impact, so we don't want to be too prescriptive to lock it in. And the other thing is the technology is changing. So not only are we learning more about the current impacts, but we want to make sure that this can morph as the technology continues to evolve and change.
If you're on the staff of a representative or senator, please go back and tell them about the bill. We think it's got a good chance. And thanks to all of you for being here. Thanks for all the presenters.